Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is market strategist Jeff Halley, who's the Senior Market Analyst Asia Pacific at OANDA. Now, Jeff, good to have you on the show again.
Good to be here, mate, and I'll try and sound as intelligent as David.
Now, before we get your insights, let's take a look first at how regional markets are performing. But first, before that, let's go and take a quick look at cryptocurrencies. Now, Bitcoin is at 45,022. It's down 2.91%. Ethereum is at 30,040. It's 3,040. Sorry. 3,040, it's down 4.77%. Now, if we look at markets across the region, and it's a sea of green, we've got the Nikkei, which is at 27,628.01. It's up 0.74%. Shanghai Composite is at 3,466.33. It's up 0.56%. The Hang Seng is 25,938.82. It's up 0.75%. The ASX 200 is up 0.08% at 7,517.3. And closer to home, we've got the SGX, which is at 3,145.77. It's up 0.87%. But rounding up the numbers, we've got Bursa Malaysia, which is at 1,522.87, down slightly 0.05%, bucking the trend. Jeff, what's going on here? There's this slew of optimism all of a sudden across the region.
Yeah, look, it's been taking up a fair bit of my very limited brain power trying to figure this one out this morning. Malaysia's easy. Meeting with the king yesterday with political leaders, no new prime minister. Until Malaysia sorts out some sort of semblance of a stable government, I think that Malaysia will continue to underperform in equity markets against its ASEAN peers, and that's just a fact of life. Across the rest of the region, most of Asia on the week is still down, and I'm wondering today, given that Wall Street had a pretty poor performance overnight, whether we're sort of seeing a combination of factors, a FOMO buy the dip, which is often what you see in Japan and South Korea. We had a weaker, a 6-week low on the CNY fixed by the People's Bank of China today, which would be good for their exports and by default the rest of the region. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand decided to not hike rates today because of the COVID-19 issues down there. And I think maybe it's a combination of all of these factors, also weaker Asian currencies, which should also boost export performances across the region theoretically as well. I think a combination of all these factors, it has come through. I think if we looked under the bonnet, we might see a lot of the buying is concentrated in defensive stocks, which is what we saw outperforming on Wall Street overnight, even though the headline indices fell. And I think, yeah, so it's a combination of all these factors, but there doesn't seem to be one clear driver moving Asia higher today.
Okay, so I want to pose something to you because this has been coming out quite a bit, which is the narrative around the peaking of economic growth in the second and third quarter of this year. That's suddenly starting to play out with the data that we are seeing across the world. Is that a view that you hold on to?
Well, I think it's a temporary aberration. I believe that the global recovery was always going to be K-shaped. So if you had lots of these nice new fancy vaccines, you were going to recover a lot faster than the rest of us were. So that's really the Northern Hemisphere powerhouses, as opposed to Asia and the developing world, etc., etc. Look, it's coming off very low base rates from 2020 as well. I think the thing that's confused everybody here, or confusing investors at the moment, is this Delta variant COVID-19. Now, Asia's issues with this are very well known. There will almost certainly be an impact on growth rates across Asia, and that's a certainty in some countries because of it. The jury's out as to whether it's going to impact the US, where cases are heading towards new all-time highs on a daily basis again, or Europe. one positive today would be that China's admittedly very low number of COVID-19 cases fell again yesterday and this morning, meaning that it looks like they're getting on top of their little localized outbreaks. That's a positive for Asia and maybe behind some of the equity outperformance today. I think we need to look to China. I think the global recovery is on track, albeit at a slower pace. And equities are still near all-time highs in many parts of the world, so it's not all doom and gloom. I think the big game changer would be if China experienced huge outbreaks of this Delta variant, and that led to wide scale and longer in duration lockdowns. I think as long as that doesn't happen, then the global recovery remains on track, albeit at a less vigorous pace.
Jeff, the other thing hanging over markets is really the clampdown in China on various industries now. It's not just the tech industry itself, it's in education as well. And this is reflected in institutional investors reducing their shareholdings in China's stocks. So now in the latest filings from Cathie Wood's funds, they basically disclosed that her ETFs have been steadily unloading Chinese stocks. Do you think that this is going to continue in the next couple of months?
And the short answer is yes, I do. I don't think this regulatory risk is going away. And I think what we see is that every few days, these stocks go lower and then investors go, they've gone lower. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'll buy some. That light turns out to be the train coming the other way. And thus, it tends to be a temporary aberration. I think eventually a lot of these China heavyweights will fall price-wise to levels that are so attractive that it offsets this ongoing regulatory risk. And the 5-year plan from China suggests that this is ongoing over the next 5 years. Once stocks get to that level that they're so attractively priced that offsets the regulatory risk, we'll see some stability coming back to that market. But I don't believe that we're anywhere near that yet, and we're going to see more pain. It's quite clear that China doesn't care what stock prices, what happens to stock prices when they are busily regulating or feeling that they need to control certain parts of the economy.
Jeff, thank you very much for coming on the show and for your insights.
My pleasure. Cheers, Brian.
Cheers. I've been speaking to Jeffrey Halley, Senior Market Analyst, Asia Pacific at OANDA on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe and like our various platforms. Thanks for tuning in.